Hey, welcome to Transform Your Workplace. This is a podcast where we explore ideas that help leaders build better workplaces, ones that are more human, creative, and effective. I'm your host, Brandon Laws, and this show is all about growth, how we could develop leaders, create healthier cultures, and help people thrive at work. Every week, I sit down with thought leaders and experts who challenge how we think, lead, and show up in the world, both at work and beyond. Today's episode is brought to you by Xenium HR. At Xenium, we know every organization's HR needs are different. That's why we offer custom HR support. We wrap around your internal HR team or become your full service partner. Whether you need help with compliance, employee relations, training, or strategy, our HR experts step in exactly where you need them most. Think of Xenium as an extension of your culture, your people, powered by ours. Learn more at xeniumhr.com. All right, on to today's episode. I'm talking with Susanne Madsen, executive coach and the author of How to Do the Inner Work. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, burned out, or just out of alignment with your values, this conversation is going to hit home. Susanne shares her personal story of high stress in the corporate world, how ignoring her emotions and constantly powering through led her to physical and emotional exhaustion, and what it took to finally stop and listen to herself. In the conversation, we dig into why so many of us wear stress like a badge of honor, how to recognize when you're out of alignment with your values, simple, powerful exercises to restore your energy and self-awareness, and how breathing, meditation, and gratitude can help you regulate your emotions and rewire your mindset. This conversation is honest, practical, and full of takeaways you can apply immediately. Whether you're a leader, a manager, or just someone trying to find a little bit more peace in the chaos of work and life, this episode will help you hit pause, reflect, and start doing the inner work that real transformation requires. All right, let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Susanne Madsen. Susanne, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I am really looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. We're going to talk about your book. It's called How to Do the Inner Work. And I think this is so important that we focus on our inner emotions. And you wrote about how for years in probably the corporate world, you ignored your emotions and poured all that energy into proving your worth throughout your career. You probably ignored stress and emotions that started bubbling up. Take us back to that moment of what you were feeling, whether physical manifestations or these emotional feelings during this time, and when you realized you needed to really slow down and kind of listen to yourself.
Like many others and like many other people I coach these days, I was working hard. I had a big project to deliver. It was the most important project for the bank I was working for. I felt important. I didn't want to let anyone down. I carried a lot of weight on my shoulders. And I really felt it. And it was a year-long project. So actually, there was just the aches and pains began. My foot was inflamed. I had irritable bowel syndrome. I can't remember all the symptoms anymore. But yeah, you kind of rationalize it and you say to yourself, no, actually, I knew it wasn't totally normal. But you kind of brush it aside. I did. It's normal to get colds and flus. Yeah, it's normal to feel stressed. You wear stress as a badge of honor. I'm so busy. I'm so busy, and I feel so important now that I got this important role for an investment bank. And so you can play that record for a while. Just keep powering through. And it's years. We're talking about years. Short term, we're built for it. But long term, we're not. And we ignore those signals. And I ignored those signals until I could no longer ignore them. And I'm not sure. I think it was a gradual process. But I just remember one day I got this thought in my head that maybe I should just take a sabbatical.
Ooh, I
And
like that idea.
I walked up to HR thinking it was going to be a confidential conversation. And I said, could you just talk me through the process of even taking a sabbatical? like I was thinking 3 months. And because I didn't want, I just had no idea. I just wanted to hear their response. And she's probably said it was possible. But the next day, my manager came and said, Susanne, I hear you've spoken to HR. Something is wrong. Let's talk. And I was like, I thought I had that conversation in
Yeah.
confidence. But actually, it was a good thing because it ended up me getting more help with my project. And also, I ended up taking a sabbatical, not for 3 months because it was a financial crisis. This was back in 2008, and I was really
Oh yeah.
worried I was going to make myself redundant. So I ended up taking 6 weeks and I went to India. And it actually changed everything for me because I took a step back. I went to an ashram, I did yoga, I did meditation, and I stopped. And this is what many people don't do. They don't stop. And we need to stop in order to get a new perspective.
I imagine during those years you were finding ways to cope with those physical and emotional symptoms. What self-sabotaging things were you doing during that time to like just ignore the problems before it came too much? Because I imagine a lot of us that we just sweep it under the rug and find ways to cope with the feelings that we have, and we ignore the problem.
Yeah, I said to myself, this is part of the game. Because
Mm.
I thought maybe I should go and be a farmer or a fisherman, do something completely different. I just dreamt of not having any work stress and doing a very simple job. And I thought, but I feel so privileged to have this job. It was a very good job. And I'd been working hard to get a job like that. And so I was just saying, it's part of it. It's part of the game. Don't complain.
Hmm.
Just get on with it. And maybe even lying to myself a bit, saying, this is what I want. Because part of it I wanted. I was very attracted to that corporate world. And in many ways, I still am, but not with those side effects, if you like, not with those negative consequences of stress and burnout. And I was really on the verge of burnout. If I had not taken that sabbatical, I don't know, because I do see people today who have a real burnout, meaning that they cannot come back. Their
Yeah.
body is literally burned out and it can take years to come back, if ever. So I'm very pleased that something inside of me really did come up, strong intuition saying, don't continue to do this, take a break.
I'm glad you realized that, because I think for too many people, and the big idea in your book is about doing the inner work. I think too many people are looking for external fixes, whether it's their boss, the government, or just anything except for working on themselves and getting themselves unstuck from whatever's going on. How did you realize that you needed to do the work and not somebody else doing the work for you?
Well, I've always been attracted to meditate. I have a lot of Buddhas in my home because that was what I aspired to. I aspired to become peaceful, and so I knew what I was aiming for, but I didn't know how to get there. Now, the big turning point for me was actually, interestingly enough, the same year as this happened, the same year as I planned the sabbatical. It was the very week that the Lehman Brothers went bust in 2008.
Mm.
I went on a leadership program and I was personally coached for the first time. And it had such an impact on me that I wanted to study coaching. And I studied coaching in parallel with my corporate job. And it made me it opened up a whole new world. Until then, I was surrounded by very ambitious people in the city of London, bankers, lawyers, and project managers and tech people, all very good people, ambitious people. But I had not been exposed to people with more of an open mindset, and people would talk
Yeah.
about the law of attraction, and I was like, "What's that?" So a whole new world opened up to me. It felt like I opened my skull up and I just poured in new knowledge.
I
So
love
it was
that.
a completely new road that I went on. And you probably know, but when you start to study coaching yourself, I literally did several diplomas. You coach yourself first. Before you coach anybody else, you coach yourself first. So I went through all these exercises about limiting beliefs on myself. And in the beginning, I thought, I'm sorted. I don't have any limiting beliefs. Can you believe it? I thought I don't have any. And then I realized they're everywhere. So
Everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, so it
Yeah.
was introduced to me through my own coaching studies.
I love this because this is very meta, because it's like you had the right coach to unlock this other part of you that was probably there, made you curious, and then you went and studied it. And now you're doing this for other people as well. And I'm really curious, when people come to you, when you are coaching other people, what sort of what problems do they come to you with? What sort of feelings do they have? What sort of physical manifestations do they have about what you've experienced,
Yeah.
with your own life?
So most people actually come and they don't share with me initially any of the deeper struggles, because number one, it takes a while to build trust. Number two, often they're not aware.
Yeah.
But I'm very gentle with people. So we work on some external things. If they want, they have maybe a difficult conversation at work they need to have, or they want to improve their presentation techniques. And then, of course, little by little, I kind of go a bit deeper with them, sometimes quite directly, depending on the person. But then we figure out, then it quite quickly turns out that they lack confidence, they're overwhelmed, they work too much, they're unhappy. Some of these work relationships are really getting to them in a real way. They have difficulties coping. And so that's what they come with, a lot of overwhelm. Yeah.
You talk about values alignment in your book, and I want to give you, or maybe give us insights on the two states of being completely out of alignment and what that looks like. And when we are in complete alignment with our values, what sort of life do we have?
Yeah. So the people I coach, because I ask a lot of questions of them, and they always know the answer. And people
Hmm.
who are listening right now will also know the answer. So if I ask people right now, are you in alignment? Kind of, are you living the authentic life that you would like to live? I think people will intuitively know if it's a yes or a no. Or there might be a partial answer. They might say, actually, I'm in total alignment in my home life because I'm happily married, I have kids, and I'm really happy that side is going well, but I'm not fulfilled at work. Or it could be the other way around, or it could be, yes, everything is well, but my health is not in alignment. Or so people intuitively know the answer, because when we're not in alignment, there's just a part of us that is screaming at us. Maybe it's a little voice, maybe it's a loud voice going, I'm stuck here, or I'm not happy in this part of my life. And so I can always ask people, and then I'll ask people who are watching and listening right now, what do you want more of in your life? I think we always know intuitively what we want more of. I want more fun, or I want more joy, or I want more fulfillment at work, or I want a more intimacy with my partner. Or we always know, and so that's where we begin. We intuitively know if we're in alignment or out of alignment. Does that resonate with you as well, Brandon?
Oh, absolutely. I know when my values are out of alignment, or I'm doing it's usually at work, or when I have too much on my workload, where I don't get to the things that are important to me, whether it's spending time with my kids, just more time with my wife, or doing the things that I love to do.
Yeah, and it's so common because corporate life now, and I think not even corporate life, every single job is so demanding. There's so much competition that we have information overload. And
Yeah.
if the employee doesn't learn to set boundaries, I don't think the organization will set the boundaries for you. So we are all, per definition, overloaded, overwhelmed. We have these beautiful devices that are also overloading us with information if we don't learn to switch off. So, yeah, unfortunately, we do need to learn to work with that, and otherwise we will go in the wrong direction.
Suzanne, like when I know I'm out of alignment is when I say yes to something and then I put it on my calendar and then I immediately regret it. Like committing to something that I know I'm going to regret later on. Like when that approaches and I'm like, that could have been doing something else that I would have had more fulfillment out of. And yet I'm doing something for somebody else.
And can I ask you, in the moment when you say yes, do you think that if you just paused for a few seconds that
Oh
you
yeah,
would know it's a no?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Because oftentimes we do have the answers, and that's my point. It's just that we are rushing, we are externally focused. But if we take the time to pause and look inwards and just ask ourselves these key questions, what do I need right now? Then we often, almost always, we get the answers.
Hmm. You write that quote, we can't just hit a reset button to erase limiting beliefs. We have to consciously practice awareness, curiosity, and self compassion. End quote. Why do you think that beliefs hold so much power over the way we behave in our careers, relationships, and health? And how do you get somebody to start recognizing which beliefs are actually holding them back? Because I know a lot of beliefs do hold us back from accomplishing bigger things.
Well, what is a belief? A belief is a perpetuating thought, a belief pattern. It's like something we really believe is true, and so I might it's a part of our programming.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I said a moment ago that I didn't think I had any limiting beliefs was that it was so much part of my programming. It was so much part of me that I didn't even see it. So I'll give you and the listeners an example. So growing up, I was by osmosis, I was taught that you've got to work hard, you gotta be active, you gotta not just be lazy. Because when I was lazy and not noticing my mum needed some help in the house, my dad would get very angry and like kind of, and so that was really instilled in me. And so I think I learned in some way that it can be dangerous to relax and is not the way to go. That's not the way to get rewards. So for me, that belief was you've got to work hard. And also coupled with that is hard to ask for help, don't show weakness. And so it becomes a part of me. It becomes the way I think. It goes through every single thing. You can understand now with this big project why I didn't want to show weakness. I didn't want to just relax or, gotta work hard. That's the way to go. That's why so beliefs are so ingrained. It becomes the way we think.
I think so many people, they push away the negative emotions, cover them up any way possible through coping mechanisms. But you talk about embracing them with kindness and self-compassion instead. And I think for people listening who may constantly be in this state of negativity, stressed out, they're stuck, how do you begin to, I know you said it to me earlier, like, what would you have done if you just paused? Like, how do you actually do that in practice? It's easier said than done, but like, what do you coach people on in terms of looking inward, pausing, and trying to figure out a healthier approach?
It is definitely easier said than done. And that's why sometimes it's nice to work with somebody external, another person who can help guide us. So for instance, let's say sadness or anger, they're easy emotions to work with because we all understand what it is like. Most of us understand what it's like to be angry, and most of us understand what it's like to feel sad. And it's not pleasant. So if I feel very sad, because let's use a common example, I've been given feedback, constructive feedback, negative feedback, whatever you want to call it. I don't feel good. I feel that I'm failing. And so I don't want to feel like that. It's unpleasant. It makes me feel small. So I'll do anything I can to run away from that emotion. I might even start looking for a job straight away. I was coaching somebody yesterday who told me that. I was looking for a new job. I started browsing, and because we're trying to get away from that emotion. Again, if we pause and notice, what am I feeling right now? I feel small. I feel worthless. Okay, we can begin to challenge our thoughts. Is that really true? Should you really feel that way just because you've had negative feedback? But you're not asking me about the thought patterns. You're asking me about the emotion. So my answer is, well, begin to go into that feeling and be with it. Meaning you can say to yourself, okay, this is difficult. It's a difficult pill to swallow, but it's okay. So what? I feel a bit down because this was not great feedback. Maybe I need to work on it. Maybe I shouldn't just run away from it. Can I be with that feeling? Can I be with that negative feedback? Can I just feel it in my body? No, it's very hard. Okay, I know it's hard. It's okay. Can you have self-compassion? Can you give yourself a hug? It's okay you're disappointed right now. It's okay you feel down right now. And then we can go further, kind of where do you feel um, that small part of you? Where does it sit in your body? Oh, I feel it right in my stomach. I feel this knot in my stomach. It's like crunching, and it's black and it's dark and it's dense and it's making me feel small and it's making me shrink. Okay, go into the shrinking, be with it. Can you describe it? I can ask, can you describe it? Yeah, can you describe it a bit more? The color? Yeah, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, I don't feel it anymore. It's beginning to dissipate. I'm trying really hard, but I can't feel it anymore. And that's what happens when we focus on it. It dissipates
Yeah.
because it's being heard, it's being seen, and it's being acknowledged. It's really quite magical. It's
I love
counterintuitive,
that.
though.
Yeah. You make the point that like taking care of ourselves is not selfish. As you just described it, you deal with it and it dissipates, and then you then have the energy to be better, like to serve others, to serve yourself. Why do you think so many people struggle with showing themselves the same compassion that they show other people?
Maybe because we haven't been shown all that compassion. I think some children can be quite sensitive, and
Hmm.
I thought quite a bit about this. Now I've seen I've seen some children who had most of their emotional needs met. They were spoiled emotionally, not necessarily materialistically, but emotionally they were spoiled. They had their needs fulfilled. And in a sense, you could say they were very selfish. And I also saw they grew out of it because their needs were being fulfilled. They got a lot of love and care and attention from their parents. As teenagers and as young adults, they could really extend that to others. Number one, because that was a norm for them. And number two, because when my needs are fulfilled, my cup is overflowing and I can give to others. And it's beautiful. And I think that's why we need to put that oxygen mask on ourselves first, because then I can serve from a full and overflowing cup. But we're not taught it. And I think kids get a lot of, if the parents are insecure, then they often carry it through to their children.
Your book is packed with a bunch of exercises in it. There's a few I wanted to touch on. One of the exercises I ran across was just, how do we find our happy place? What's a simple exercise for that?
Well, so the happy place I use in the book to have people, just to give it back, to explain, a place where I can sit and be with myself. Because let's face it, I'm not going to do the inner work when I'm sitting at work. I'm not going to do the inner work when I'm mid through a conversation with somebody else. So I need to find my happy place. And again, people listening right now or watching, if I ask you, where do you feel really comfortable? A place where you can go and you can relax, you can be yourself. Maybe it's in nature, maybe it's a special place in your home, maybe it's on the beach, maybe it's a favorite walk you go on. It could be anything. Maybe it could be a church or another temple. So it's simply by asking myself, where do I feel the most comfortable? Where can I be physically, or could also be a state of mind?
Mm.
Where can I go in my imagination where I can just relax and not pace myself, where I can actually just sit with the answers, sit with my emotions?
Actually, as you're talking, I was visualizing, like, what are my happy places? Like, sometimes I can get there in my head, where it's just sort of like the daydreaming and putting myself somewhere else. But then I was thinking of like physical places that actually make me really happy, and there's a lot of them, lots to choose from.
What came to you? I'm curious.
So I live in a neighborhood around a golf course, and we live across from a park also. And the park goes up a big hill, and it's like a nature park, where a big walking trail about a mile. There's a bench at the very top of the hill that overlooks the view of the entire city and the like smaller mountains. I like to just sit there. Like, I walk up there, so it's a good like 10-minute walk, but then just sitting there in just absolute silence, looking at the views. That is my favorite.
That sounds like a really special place.
And it's 10 minutes away from my house. Like, I just walk out my front door and it's there.
Yeah.
So
It's funny because during the pandemic, I've been living in this area of London for, 15, 18 years, and I'd never been into the cemetery. Why would I go into the cemetery?
Interesting.
Exciting. During the pandemic, I went into the cemetery because we couldn't go anywhere else. And I realized they had this beautiful wild area at the back with big, beautiful trees, and has a beautiful willow garden with it's just beautiful with roses and willow trees. And it was so perfect for holding all my emotions that came up during the pandemic as well. It's a very beautiful place. And sometimes the most beautiful places are on our doorstep.
Seriously. It just have to be open and aware of our surroundings. And the cemetery, that's an interesting one. There's a lot of history there too. Is every tombstone that you see probably tells a story. And I imagine you like for probably daydreaming a little bit and just kind of thinking of like, wow, I wonder what this person did. And
after a while, I don't even see it anymore. I just see, there's a lot of nature. We have foxes, we have lots of birds and parrots and whatever else. And so after a while, I just go to connect with the nature there. Yeah.
I love it. What's an effective way to recognize and reduce the things that drain our energy? Is there an exercise that you recommend for that?
Yeah, so I think, and maybe I should just hold the book up for reference here if people want to see what it actually looks like. And it's not a massively thick book, and maybe I just want to talk to that, because when people are overwhelmed, I don't think they need a big, thick academic book.
Yeah,
so
right.
I try to make the book very practical with these different exercises. So the way I talk, and I do this early on in the book, about this, the energy equation. So do I feel drained? Am I running on empty? Because if I'm running on empty or I'm drowning, we have different metaphors from this, right? hardly get up and
Save
get
the
air.
water.
Then I need to remove some of the things that drain me. And at the same time, I need to pour in some and energize myself. And I always advocate starting small because that's most sustainable. And again, I can ask people, and people know intuitively the answer. What's one thing that really drains you? And what's one thing, or maybe we just pause there before I ask the next question. What's one thing that really drains you? And for most people, well, it could be a certain person at work. For me, it was all the emails I had to go through when the
Yeah.
office was quiet from 6 to 7 or 8 p.m. That really drained me. Or for other people, it could be just coming home to a busy household. It could be different things for different people, right? It could be the commute. I don't know. Could be that family member who you need to see but you don't want to see, or it could be anything. And also, I ask them, how can you begin to reduce your exposure to that?
Hmm.
Maybe not quite remove it. Some people have obligations in their private lives. It's quite stressful. It could be draining. But how can you maybe set some better boundaries around that? How can you set better boundaries and not work too late? Because that really is draining for people if they don't get their sleep and they burn the candle at both ends. And then I ask the other question, what really gives you energy? And some people, I don't know anymore. I don't know. I just have worked so much. I have my kids. I don't know. Okay, but think back to when you were a teenager. What did you used to love? Oh, I used to love playing tennis, and the whole face will light up. Or I play the instrument, but these days I don't have time for it. And then I go, well, how can you spend just 10 minutes? Yeah, I could. I mean, 10 minutes playing tennis is probably a bit of a difficult one, but they can play
Yeah.
their instrument for 10 minutes. So I will try to help them find a way, because it's not about the quantity of time, it's the quality of time. Some people, it's going and praying. It's going to that special place, going to that bench a couple of times a week that you're talking
Mhm.
about. We all know intuitively one little thing we can do that begins to give us more energy, whether it's going to the gym just once a week. Yeah, so I ask people and I hear what comes back from them.
How does breath play a role in the inner work? And if there's an exercise that's your favorite for breathing, what is that?
Yeah, and there are many good ones, and I go through quite a few of them in the book. The breath is so important because I think most of what we actually talking about is regulating our nervous system. Because if I'm overwhelmed, if I'm sad or depressed or angry, listen, none of us want to be there. We have to address it. We can't run away from it. We have to transcend it, but it's not pleasant, right? We don't want to live there. I'm actually really glad you asked that question. I think breath is fundamental in so many ways, and it's one of the only things we can actually change consciously about our nervous system, or one of the things we can consciously change that has the biggest effect on our nervous system. Because when we are dysregulated, when we are stressed or angry or tense, the one thing that we need to do is regulate our nervous system so that we get out of that state. And the breath is one of the quickest, if not the quickest and most effective way to do that. So we can use the breath in different ways. We can use it tactically, short term. I'm overwhelmed, I'm flustered, can't think straight, I can't do my presentation right now. I have 100, 200, 300 emails I need to get through. Okay, in that case, your out breath should be longer than your in breath.
Mhm.
So you can breathe in for 3 and out for 6 or whatever. Just make your out breath as long and slow as possible. And it has an immediate effect. The breathwork technique that I'm actually most attracted to is one that's just slightly different, but is called coherent breathing. And a coherent breath means that you are breathing in for 5 to 6 seconds and you're breathing out for 5 to 6 seconds. So it's a slow circular breath. You're not necessarily slowing down your nervous system, so you're not going to go to sleep, but you are regulating it. And this technique, the coherent breath technique, where you take only 5 to 6 breaths per minute, slow, deep breaths, equal amount, equal time in breath and equal time out breath, it has been proven to increase the messages that go from your heart to your brain and from your brain to your heart. So it creates an internal coherence. And when they hook you up to all their EEGs and all their different machines, they can see that the heart rhythm begins to
Hmm.
change. It begins to become coherent, and it changes your entire physiology, and it changes your state of mind. It's a beautiful, beautiful practice. If we practice it for 5 minutes a day, slowing down, just sitting there, breathing, it would give us that perspective. We get away from those racing thoughts, and we come into a different type of balance with ourselves. So the breath is really, really magical, and it's always there.
I'm a huge fan of that one. I actually do that every day, kind of like right after lunch and then right before bed, or usually when I'm laying in bed, because like thoughts are swirling. I might be anxious about what's to happen tomorrow, and that slow breath in and out, it does change everything.
It is really quite magnificent and surprisingly simple. It's just that when we rush, we forget to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's also about having some regular practices and sticking with them.
How can meditation help us feel more centered in a way that the breathing exercises can't? And what's the difference?
So there are many, many different meditation techniques. I think often, I mean, and meditation can be used for different purposes. I sometimes think of meditation as training the mind. So because we're all over the place, and our mind can run away with us, we can get these worrying thoughts. So let's just imagine I get negative feedback from my managers or from my clients, and straight away my mind begins to race. My thoughts go all different directions. I'm no good. I should, I'm my imposter syndrome kicks in. And so training our mind with meditation helps us become aware of what our thoughts are. It helps us to come back to a centering thought or come back to our breath. So it helps us to control our mind. I remember many, many years ago when I was first introduced to this, when I was working on these stressful projects, which is now it's over 15 years ago. I remember I was seeing friends that evening, and I thought, okay, tonight I'm not going to think about work. But I went into the underground by St. Paul's Cathedral, and I was thinking about work. I thought, no, 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 I'm not going to think about work. 2 seconds later, I was thinking about work. And I realized that I kept making the decision not to think about work, but I had no control over my mind. My
Mm.
mind kept going back to work problems. And I realized I had a problem. And so meditation can help train our mind because we become more conscious and aware of what is going on. And we train ourselves because the mind will run off with us. So we train ourselves to come back on track, come back to our mantra, come back to our breath, whatever it is we're focusing on. So that's one way. There are many uses of meditation. The other way is that you can have more like the meditations where you tune in, where you really notice what is happening inside of you. You notice your thoughts, you notice your emotions, you notice what's coming up for you, you notice your intuitions, you notice, and you can also go in your imagination with meditation, where you take your you because imagination is very powerful. So it definitely has a different dimension to it than breath work, even though breath work often plays a role and prepares
Mhm.
us for meditation.
Yeah. I feel like as human beings, we're wired for a negativity bias. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
external factors that play a role into that, like social media, the news. Bleeds it leads, right? Um, what role does gratitude play in fighting off that negativity bias? How does it play a role in our mental health if we do focus on gratitude? And is there an exercise that you like that helps us be more grateful?
It's a really good point, and I agree with you, and of course, many researchers who talk about the negativity bias because we're actually wired for survival. We're not wired to thrive. We're wired to look out for the threats. And so again, it's about a lot of this inner work is about being conscious of what's going on, just noticing what are my thoughts and feelings right now. And little by little, we can begin to notice the small wins. I've signed up for a program this year. It's a year-long program, mostly with a lot of women, and it's actually called Living in the Miracle Zone.
Hmm.
And it's every month has a different theme, but what is constant is noticing the small miracles in life. And we're not talking the big things, I got a bonus, or all these big
Yeah.
juicy things. No, it's noticing the small miracles, the person who smiled to you on the street, the the friendliness around you, the tree outside of your house, or a little synchronicity that happened, or somebody called you when you were just thinking about them. Anything, the small things in life, the small beautiful things. Because the more we focus on them, and this is the science behind it, the more you notice them. What you
Hmm.
focus on expands. And so gratefulness, I think, is part of noticing those smaller or bigger things in life that actually work very well. How often do we think and pause and feel grateful for the friends in our life? Oh my God, it's so important. How often do we pause and think about our legs that are working? Oh my God, it's
Right.
miraculous, you know? Our breath, it's miraculous. We wouldn't be alive without it. And we take so many things for granted. But, I have recently come across so many of my friends or people I know of where their life changes in a split second. For some
Yep.
reason, all of a sudden they start getting seizures, or they get infected with a virus and they can't move, or they get cancer. And we just have to be so grateful for what we have. And so a good practice is beginning to notice at the end of the day, what's been going well for me today? What are small things I can notice that I can be grateful for? Because shit happens too, excuse my French.
I love
Life
it.
is not there to just be, it's not rosy and it's not meant to be rosy. But if we look out for it, there are the small things. And sometimes we're lucky enough for big things that go well. Be grateful for it because it changes our outlook and it changes how we feel. Gratefulness is a very, very high emotion. I think it's on par with, if not higher than joy. When you're grateful, again, like coherent breathing, it changes the whole biochemistry in your body, and it all comes for free.
I love that. I love everything you just said. I totally agree with you. I find myself like, it's the little stuff. It's like dishwasher breaks or something, and you're like, why did I take that for granted? Now I'm like, I'm in misery because I had had this for so long, and I took you for granted, and it's little things like that all throughout your life that you just go throughout your day. Don't stop and pause and be grateful for the things that you have or the people that you have in your life, the relationships. And I agree with you. Reflecting at the end of the day, even to start the day,
Yeah.
could kick the day off in a really positive way.
And I also just want to say it's a gradual process. We don't go from being depressed and overwhelmed to feeling
Yeah.
just, oh my God, life is amazing. It's taking me years to rewire myself, but I have rewired my brain. And I'm not saying, I have bad days too.
Hmm.
And we meant to have bad days. We grow through adversity and through
Yeah.
difficulty, but it's the perspective we have on it. And we can change our perspective and we can change the way we look at life. I love this saying that you can live as if nothing is a miracle, as if everything is a miracle. And when we are having a difficult time, and I had a very difficult time during the pandemic when not because of the virus, but for other reasons. I was going through perimenopause and menopause, and my whole body was aching. And it's not
Mhm.
fun when you can't sleep. And so I know what it is like to suffer as well. But and still at the same time, we can have a gratefulness for the things that are working. And I think it is Jack Cornfield who is saying there are more things that are right with you than what are wrong with you.
Yes. Love
So
that.
yeah, that is worth pausing on and reflecting on.
Suzanne, I really enjoyed this conversation. There's so much more I wanted to ask you, but I know it's late for you, so I'm going to let you go. But in just thinking of wrapping up this conversation, what's an exercise or a thought that you want to leave people with that perhaps we didn't talk about today?
Oh, I think we've actually touched upon those fundamental pieces, which are just spend time with yourself, spend time in nature, and just listen to what comes up for you. Just listen, because it starts with listening inwards. And if nothing much comes, don't worry. Just ask again tomorrow and spend a bit more time with yourself tomorrow. Be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day, but you can change your life in more dramatic ways than you think. And also, something we haven't talked about is asking for help externally. So sometimes working with a coach, working with a therapist is appropriate if we obviously are clinically depressed, if we have big traumas we're working through. And we need to say that because some people do need help. And I've worked with a therapist, even if I don't have a big T trauma. I had lots of smaller things I needed to work on. And I think it's beneficial for almost all of us. So seek help, you can change in ways that you don't imagine, because anything is possible. Yeah, I do believe that because I've seen it.
Suzanne's book is called How to Do the Inner Work. It's very practical. It's, I think, 175 pages. It's packed with exercises. I think it's such an easy and practical read. So go check that out. Suzanne, anything else that you want to point people to, connect with you, check out your website, anything like that?
I just want to say thank you to anyone who is still listening, because it means that you're serious about yourself. And that's what this is about. It's about you. And it's not selfish to do the inner work. When you clear up your inner blockages, you can serve others and you can serve the world in ways that you cannot if you're overwhelmed and stressed. So I have lots of material online. I've actually the book is also recorded with my own voice as an audiobook. So there really is no excuse. And on my website, some of the exercises I've actually also recorded, and people can check them out. But the exercise without the rest of the text may not make so much sense. But I did that for people who only have the paper version, the paperback version. They can sit back and listen to some of the guided exercises with my voice as well.
My guest today has been Susanne Madsen, the author of How to Do the Inner Work. Suzanne, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the guest's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Zenium HR or the host, Brandon Laws. The material and information presented on Transform Your Workplace is for general information and educational purposes only. Zenium HR or the host, Brandon Laws, does not necessarily endorse any guest, their business, or any organization they represent. Discretion is advised. Please work with a trusted advisor to find a custom approach that fits your organization's needs.